Let me find it for you because I want you to know that there's a difference. Peace offering. He says a peace offering or a free will offering. I want you to understand that in the Old Testament there was different types of sacrifices. There was a sin offering. There was a peace offering. Here there's also a free will offering. There was a purification offering. There were multiple types of sacrifices in the Old Testament. So what I'm talking about tonight is that free will or that peace offering you give it unto the Lord. In the beginning, when Adam and Eve had two children, who knows their names? Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel, one of them was a tiller of the ground. He had crops, and the other one raised animals, and he was a herdsman. And the herdsman, Cain, slew Abel. So Abel was the herdsman. Abel gave unto the Lord a pure and unblemished lamb. But Cain gave unto God a bruised and broken and blemished offering. Well, how do you know that, preacher? Because God tells Cain this, that Abel gave a more acceptable offering. And here we read in Leviticus how the things that are unacceptable in his offering, it has to be, let me give you this for you, a free will offering has to be of your own will. If you're made to give it, it's not of your free will. If I get up here and I preach it to you so that I make you feel bad and you give, that's not of your free will. If I lock the back doors and I say we ain't going until we reach this certain number, that has happened in a church, a mega church. That's not of your free will. That is not going to qualify. A free will offering must be done out of your heart. A free will. You choose to do it because you felt led to do it. Not because the preacher got up here and convinced you to give. I have been in services where they'll send somebody up, a spokesman who's good at auctioning off things, and he'll get up here and he'll make you convinced that you aren't part of the assemblies unless you give. That just burns me up. I've been in different services where they get up there and they make you feel so bad that you didn't give, that you just want to crawl underneath the seat that you're sitting in, so nobody don't see that you didn't give. That's not a free will giving. It's not a free will offering. How do we come about this free will offering? Listen, I present something to you like we did in October. I presented this opportunity for you to give. I presented you an opportunity. By the way, I'm going to share with you a video, not today, maybe next Sunday if I get a chance to get it on the computer back there, of Joe and Misty and those kids that you raised money for. They sent me a video to let us see what they've got, what they did. But you had an opportunity. I presented you with the opportunity. I didn't pressure you in giving. I just said, this is what we want to do. It is your decision on what you give, how much you give, and how often you give. But what we're going to do is we want to raise money for these children. That was the offering opportunity. And we had a deadline that we had to kind of cut it off at. And you did that which you felt led to do. Now listen, I don't look at the books. I don't know who gives how much, when they give, and what they give. I just know it was given by this church and a few others outside of this church, because we had some folks listening live give some to that same thing as well. So that's a free will offering. When you get to give based off what your heart is led to do. That's a free will offering. And that is the offering I want to talk about tonight. That's the type of offering that we ought to be given on a day-to-day basis, on a regular basis for the Lord. Now, here it says that it had to be without defect. Now listen, I'm going to be real quick about this. We don't give cows and sheep and goats any longer. Listen, I'm not going to pull out the stone altar and we're not going to burn them in here tonight. That is not what we do anymore. Why? Because Christ has done away with that type of offering. There's a different style of giving that is acceptable unto Him. No longer will you go out there and maybe get your goat. You might go sell the cow and then turn your offering into the Lord somehow. That might be what you do. But you're not going to bring the cow to the church and offer it to the pastor. Now listen, I'll take it. I'll take him right down there to the butcher and I'll put him in the freezer. I won't turn him away, I promise. But that's not what we do any longer. Now, you might have to sell that cow and give to the Lord. I'm going to share you a story tonight. I had a man that used to go to church here. He's passed away now. But he used to go to church here, and I was riding with him, and he told me this. He said, "How much money do we earn on that building fund?" And I said, we've earned this amount, and we've hit this amount, and we made that amount, and we had something like, it was somewhere, I don't remember, around $1,800 or something. He said, "Well, I told the Lord, if we'll raise 1,000, I'll cash in one of my stock CDs and give it to the church." He went and sold that stock, that CD, that certified certificate, and gave it to the church. That's part of the building fund. That was an offering given to the church. He sold something of value and gave it unto the church. You may have to sell that cow and then give that offering unto the church. That is a free will offering. That's how you might do it today. It is not going to be necessarily bring the cow or the goat down here and lay it on the altar. Can I tell you, though, it's going to be something without defect. Now, listen, the offerings that I'm going to talk about tonight isn't always monetarily. There's a lot of monetary gifts, but not all gifts are monetarily. A lot of gifts are out of your own abilities and your own talents, your own gifts, the things that God's placed inside of you that you're able to do for in itself a gift of free will offering. And it is acceptable unto the Lord. Number 3, it had to be costly. It had to be costly. It had to have value. Now, I looked this up because I did not know, because I wanted to know, and I wanted to share it with you. He mentions 3 things in Leviticus. He mentions a cow, he mentions the sheep, and he mentions the goat. Now, I'm going to start with the most expensive because I want to blow your socks off tonight. But that first one, he actually lists them in order of value. The cow was the most expensive of the 3 to give as an offering. And most of the time you'll read a cow as a bull or a bullock. Remember, it had to be a male. So it's going to be a bull. That cow was worth about 30 shekels of silver. You're giving me the exact response I expected because we don't know what a shekel's worth. We're not sure what a shekel is. And we think silver's invaluable, especially next to gold. We're talking about a period of time where gold and silver were the constants. That's how they measured value. Well, let me show you a little bit. A cow was worth 30 shekels of silver. 30 shekels of silver is a wage that it took a person 3 years to make. Approximately $130,000 in today's value. One cow would have cost somebody $130,000. Now, can you see the importance of this sacrifice now? This wasn't just something they just haphazardly gave to God. They didn't just go, okay, well, go grab Betsy out of the backyard and hand it to him. No, because the cow was so valuable to the family. This was how they got a lot of their food. They got their milk and their butter and their meat, and it was a cost to the family. If you had one cow, you were thought to be wealthy. Most folks didn't have cows. Number two, there was the sheep. The sheep was worth $12,000. One sheep. The value is $12,000 in our day, and a goat is $8,000 our day. Now I want you to take in consideration something tonight just so we can understand the seriousness of it. I wasn't going to do this, and I didn't give them a heads up back there, so you're going to have to bear with me. I just feel like I just need to do it right here. In the book of Job, I want you to recognize the intense wealth that Job had. Well, let me find where he starts to steal his stuff. Maybe we'll just explain how much he's got. Here it is in chapter 1 of Job, verse 3. It says, and his substance was 7,000 sheep. 7,000 sheep. Think about that for a minute. If each sheep is worth $12,000 our time, and he had 7,000 of them, that alone makes a man more than wealthy. He had 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen. You can compare an ox to a cow. That's about the same value there. But he had 500 yoke. That means he had 1,000 oxen. 500 donkeys and a very great household. I wanted to show you the immense wealth that Job had in the beginning. Now, we know the story, and we're not here preaching that tonight. You go to the end of Job, you'll see that everything he had was doubled just about. So he had more than what he began with. But do you want to go through what Job did to get to where he was at the end of the story tonight? Yeah, he was a wealthy man, and it cost him a lot in the beginning, but he was wealthy at the end as well. I can tell you tonight, it is going to cost you something to give an offering to God. It's not going to be easy. If you can easily give, let me go to my favorite show, Andy Griffith. Andy pulls over somebody for speeding. I'm probably going to tell it wrong, but I'll get the main of it right. And the man comes in there, oh, no, I'll take you even further back. It was the show that Andy Griffith spun off of. Somebody help me. It's not Father Knows Best. Something of that nature. Anyways, it was before the Andy Griffith show. It was the show he was in that Andy Griffith spins off of. He pulls this guy over for running a stop sign that sits in the middle of a road where there's no other roads for him to stop for. Just a straight line road, and there's a stop sign in the middle. It's a comic show. It's meant for fun. But he pulls him over, and his fine for running the stop sign was $5. Well, by the time he actually gave him that fine, he insulted Andy so much that he said it'll be $10. Well, the man pulls out a wad of money. Oh, it's going to be $10, and he just starts He says, well, wait a minute. Says normally this fine was $10, but due to the circumstances, it's going to be $100 or 10 days in jail. And the man flips out, of course. Now, today's time, $100, let's just equate that to $1,000. The man flips out. He gets locked in jail. And long story short, at the end of this whole thing, Andy's he's a TV producer of some show or something, and they call in the cameras, and they're trying to make Andy look like the bad guy. But at the end of it, Andy says this. He said, normally the folks in this town, at $5 would set them back several weeks. He said, but this man was so arrogant, he pulled out a wad of money and was trying to rub it in my face that he could pay this fine basically 10, 15 times over without any problems. So we had to make it hurt a little bit. And he says, I wanted him to understand that nobody was above the law, that he had to pay his price. So Andy raised the price of the fee for this man. And I tell you that story because it is imperative that we recognize that what one person gives is a sacrifice may not be a sacrifice for somebody else. And just because Sister so-and-so could give this, and this over here, this brother over here, he's got 15-fold of what she got, it's going to cost him a lot more in his giving because it ain't hurting him none to give what she gave. You remember the story when Jesus was standing far off and he was watching everybody come up and throw their money in the treasury, and they saw this one beat-up old lady bent over maybe. I mean, she was probably broken down from life, and she comes up maybe with a cane, just barely making her way up there, and she drops 2 pence in. And Jesus says, she gave more than the rest. She gave more than the rest. Why? Because that cost her a whole lot. The rest of them had that 10 times over. It didn't hurt them to give. I'm talking about an acceptable offering. Now, I'm not here trying to boost the money coming in the offering plate. I don't want to be confused with that. Because I trust God with everything. And that's this church and the finances of this church. I don't preach for money. I preach because I'm called to preach, and that's what I'm supposed to do. And whether or not I get a dime or not doesn't make me a difference. So I don't want to confuse anybody with that. I want you to understand, I'm not trying to get you to give more because I'm trying to influence you to do it. I'm trying to get you to understand that you need to live within the principles of God and His Word. And His Word says your offering ought to cost you something. It ought to cost you something. Now again, I told you offering isn't just putting money in the offering plate. That's not offering only. That is offering. That's tithes and offering. That's part of our financial responsibility in serving the Lord. We ought to give. And again, out of a free will heart. But offering goes further than that. Offerings in giving into the church by laboring for it. Offerings in coming down here and laying your hands on people and praying for them. Well, I'm not a preacher. I don't care if you've been saved 1 minute or you've been saved 40 years. You can pray. And coming down there to pray for somebody might be the hardest thing you've done all week long. And that's an offering when it's done for the Lord out of the heart. An offering, a free will offering, is going to cost you something. It's going to be valuable to God. Now listen, does God want your cow and your sheep and your goat? He don't want your goat. He owns 1,000 cattle on 1,000 hills. Like one preacher said, and the taters under it. He don't need all that. What he needs is your heart. And what he wants is your heart. So what is so significant about the giving? Why does it matter? Why does it matter if it costs something? Because the cost applies value to what we're giving. The cost applies value to what I give. If it doesn't cost me nothing, then there's no value in what I give. Let me give you a big fat picking somebody up to go to church. If I'm picking up my neighbor who lives right next door, it doesn't hurt me any to go next door and pick somebody up. There's no value in that. Now, I'm not saying don't do that. Don't get me wrong. If your neighbor wants to go to church and they need a ride, you pick them up. But I want you to see the cost. The cost is when I've got to go across town out of the way and then come back and bring them to church. There's where the cost is. See, I want you to recognize giving isn't just in money, but in everything we do. The cost of it applies value to it. And then all of a sudden it's meaningful to the Lord. If Cain recognized that what he was doing was giving God the scraps and the leftovers, he would have recognized quickly that he's supposed to give to God something that is valuable to him. If you find yourself struggling, if you find yourself in a hard spot, I suggest you try giving. I suggest you try giving. Give out of your need. Give out of your need. Now that sounds way easier than it is to do. Again, I apply it back to monetary scenarios. Giving when you don't have to give is hard to do. When you're faced with looking at a light bill or giving in an offering, that's a hard decision for a person who's learning to trust the Lord. It's hard to give when you don't see where it's coming from tomorrow. It's easier to give when you say, well, I'll go finish this job and I'll have money tomorrow. But when you don't know where it's coming from tomorrow and you give anyways, see, that's where the value's at. And then if you give out of desire to honor the Lord, out of the heart, of free will, God honors that and He blesses it. And that little, what you gave may have been small in dollars amounts, but it was big in God's eyes, and He returns it in comparison to the way He values it. Remember, some 40, some 60, some 100-fold. Well, who determines whether I get 40, 60, or 100-fold? It's the Lord. It's the Lord. How He values your gift determines how He returns it back to you. So I'm saying tonight, it's not just in the dollars, but it is in the dollars, because that's where we're at today in this society. Money is everything. But it is in everything we do. No, we do not lay things on the altar and light them on fire anymore. But we do lay ourselves on the altar. We do give till it hurts and then some. We sacrifice with giving in our time and service of others. We labor for the Lord in many ways with that which He has given us. Can I tell you tonight, we're going to go to Luke here and we're closing there at this. Can I tell you tonight, giving is going to be costly. And the sooner we understand that, and the sooner we accept that, and the sooner we realize it's got to be done with the right heart, the sooner we're going to be blessed with that. Luke chapter 23, we're going to read several scriptures here, and then we'll close tonight. Let me show you where someone gave, and they gave it all. 23, verse number 32, and it says this, "And there were also 2 other malefactors led with him to be put to death. And when they were come to the place which is called Calvary, there they crucified him and the malefactors, one on the right hand and the one on the left. Then said Jesus, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Go to verse 39 with me. And one of the malefactors which were hanged railed on him, saying, If thou be Christ, save thyself and us. But the other answering, rebuking him, saying, Dost not thou fear God, seeing thou art in the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds. But this man hath done nothing amiss. And he said unto Jesus, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. Jesus said unto him, Verily I say unto thee, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. Can I tell you here, there's two folks on these crosses here besides Christ. There's two male factors. Remember, the offering had to be male in Leviticus. And here we fast forward to the New Testament, and the offering is still a male, without spot and without blemish. Jesus Christ, Him Himself on the cross for us. And it says that one of the malefactors condemned Him and began to rile Him and make fun of Him and began saying, If ye be God, if you be Christ, save us. The difference between the two, one of them recognized who he was and offered unto him everything he had in that moment. The other guy didn't recognize who he was, assumed who he was not, and then didn't offer anything. The man who says unto him, I love it, he says, Indeed justly, for we receive the due reward. You and I justly ought to receive the reward coming to us, and that is eternal death. However, though, Christ looked across to us, and He looked at us, and He said to us, because we put our faith in Him, and we've given to Him in a free will fashion, oh, how is it all tied together? By the will. In a free will fashion, we lay down our lives so that He can live through us. He looks over to us and He says, Today you'll be with me in paradise. Which one of the two thieves on the cross are you tonight? Are you the one who riles Christ, or are you the one who says to Him, Lord, remember me? I want to be the one who says to Christ, remember me. I want to be the one who offers to Him an acceptable offering. I want to be the one who gives to Him everything that I am and everything I am not. I want to give to Him. Amen. Stand with me tonight in this place. I hope and pray that your desires are that you want to give to the Lord, that free will offering. Sin, but you're covered in the blood of Christ. And when God looks at you, He no longer looks at the brokenness that you are. He no longer looks at how bruised you are. What He sees is the Son of Jesus Christ on that cross. His Son on that cross. He sees His blood that's poured upon your life, and He no longer sees the brokenness and the unacceptableness of your life, but accepts everything that you are at that point. He loves you just how